There it is. And all I have to do is click go live. Do we have somebody who's set to look at comments and stuff?
I can follow along. I have my iPad here. I've just got to make sure the sound is down.
That's got everybody's name. That's nice. My name is Mike, not GTMF. Just so you know. You probably already knew that. I have all your names, which is nice. That's helpful.
That's good.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We are the Wild Prairie Winds, and I just wanted to go over everything, like who we are just a little bit, just because Mike, hi Mike, Mike doesn't know us super well, but I just kind of wanted to sort of introduce us. So yeah, we met at the University of Iowa in 2017, and we've been in our current formation for a year, and so we're sort of trying to do a lot, even during this quarantine time. So we've been doing these happy hours throughout June, and then in July, we're super excited because we have our live mini concert series. So every week, one of us will be performing a small concert, but it's been really fun through June just to like connect with colleagues and to talk to people in our network and sort of get them on our radar and vice versa. So yeah, so that's who we are. So Jenna's our oboist, Sean is our bassoonist, Kim is our clarinetist, and Katie is our horn player. So for you guys, Mike and I sort of met at SUNY Purchase. We weren't like that close or anything like that, but he actually messaged me like back in February, I believe, and you know, told me that he's working with the Grand Teton Music Festival, and so it's super exciting, really cool, and I didn't know that at the time. So we thought it would be great to sort of get you on our platform and get to know you a little bit more. and just talk to you a little bit about what you do and how you got to your current position. So go ahead and take it away and introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Thanks. As she said, we did go to Purchase together back in 2014, I think, right? But, I studied jazz and she studied classical, and very often those two sides don't mix very well. So didn't get to know her too well. But, I work for the Grand Teton Music Festival now, which is a little bit ironic. It's a classical orchestra and based in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I work in operations and outreach, and it's my job essentially to assist with the production aspect of putting on the festival, which runs 7 weeks in the summer and is essentially an all-star orchestra from musicians all over the country, from major orchestras. My job includes, preparing for the festival in the off season, putting the festival on in the regular season, and also working with the outreach components, setting up education events, and various other activities. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate and love the job that I do. Even though it's not a jazz organization, it is a really great opportunity to work for a music organization like the Grand Teton Music Festival. And for me, it's like being in music school, but on overdrive, because all the musicians that come in, they're practicing, and just like you do when we were at Purchase, they're just people practicing, and they're all really, really good. And it helps you feel small again as a musician, which is always kind of a good thing, because you're like, oh man, I got to go practice now too. So yeah, it's a really great opportunity, and I'm really happy to be here with these fine musicians.
Awesome. So I guess what I'm curious about is like the musicians. So do people keep coming back, right? Multiple years, sort of, you get the same people, and like, how do you go about pulling in new musicians? And then, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the festival has been going on for almost 60 years now, and it's a lot of the musicians are long tenured, from, like I said, big orchestras all over the country. They come here more for the experience of playing in the orchestra, which is phenomenal, just because it's, like I said, kind of an all-star orchestra, and also to be in Jackson in the summer, for basically free. They don't make a great deal of money coming here, but they just love the experience. They love seeing their friends, and they love being in Jackson, going on hikes and being in this part of the country. So we have some musicians who are here for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. And actually, we're celebrating our one musician who's going to have her 50th year, was going to have her 50th season this year, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
As far as new musicians, it's an invite only. Generally, what happens is our maestro takes recommendations from other musicians in the orchestra. A lot of times, the recommendations are pretty easy. It's often principal players from, Chicago Symphony, Atlanta Symphony, stuff like that. So a lot of recommendations for newer musicians to come in.
Gotcha. And how did you get your start? I mean, your background is in jazz. How did you end up in this position?
It's a great question. So I tried the gig life, the freelance musician teaching life for a long time, for a couple of years. And it's hard to do in this part of the country. I kind of moved back away from New York because, being a jazz saxophone in New York is really tricky unless you have a good in. And it was hard. It was hard. And I took a summer position here to work for seasonal staff, just because I was teaching at community college. I was teaching private lessons and gigging as much as possible. I needed something for the summer. And one of my friends had been coming here every summer and recommended me for a front of house position. Came here, and like everyone who comes here was just like, wow, this is really cool. And they needed another person full time. So I definitely jumped at that opportunity. So mostly luck and knowing a person on the inside helped.
Yeah, I feel like that's always the case. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Kim.
I just have a quick question. So even though the festival mostly happens at one time of the year, is your job is a full-time year-round position?
Yeah. I have a full-time position. The festival, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, has expanded its offerings throughout the whole year, which is one of the things I reached out to Daniela about was our winter festival, which we can talk about at some point. But yeah, we offer monthly community concerts in normal times. Right now, we've kind of holding off on those, but through the normal year, we offer a community concert once a month, a Met screening, a live in HD performance from the Met Opera that we host and we put on, and various other outreach events and education programs that I manage.
And going along with that, I think a lot of people know about the summer portion of what goes on at this festival, but it's really, for me, it was really interesting to learn that there's also like the winter festival and even like a chamber music component to it, that it's not just the large orchestra. So can you elaborate a little bit more about that?
Of course. So that's a good point. Everybody in the classical world, I feel like, knows the GTMF orchestra and the festival orchestra. But we actually offer a lot of chamber music concerts, not only during the summer, but in the off season, as I kind of alluded to. The chamber music concerts in the summer are, our festival musicians get together and kind of play different music. And it's great for them because a lot of them don't get to do a lot of that as full-time orchestra musicians. And then in the off season, we offer chamber music concerts, like I said, once a month, community concerts that are free and open to the public. And for those, we typically bring in artists, regional artists or our own festival musicians for smaller groups. And they play kind of in the local, there's a very nice cathedral that has actually really good acoustics, and we host the concerts there, like I said, free and open to the public. And so we have about 8 of those in the off season.
Wow, that's great. And you said there's also an educational component. So do you guys do like libraries and schools and things like that as well?
Yep. So again, a lot of this stuff has been expanded upon in the last few years with some of the new leadership. And so in the summer, we do family concerts at the library. We'll go over to Idaho and do some family concerts there. And then for our community concert series, we always try to book a couple of schools to take those artists into and just have them interact with students. So again, just expanding on the education side, which is incredibly important. Classical music organizations can't just be, the weekend concert presenters anymore. They really have to engage the community more and more. And we're trying to do that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So talk a little bit about Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I guess. Like, it looks beautiful. It looks amazing. Like, honestly, I would just love to even just visit. And I don't know, if we ever go there as a quintet, like, that would be our promo material, because that is just like our aesthetic. Like, it just looks like beautiful mountain ranges and nature and things like that. So yeah, like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, of course. You guys being based in the Midwest, you probably get a lot of this too, but there's something, Jackson in this area, with all the national parks, and particularly this time of year, is just incredible. I mean, you have about 70-degree, 75-degree days, perfect blue skies, the mountains, green grass, trees, and, the hiking is incredible. There's so many places you can go for hiking. And again, that's why our musicians, that's why they come here for decades upon decades, because they're like, oh, I get to go. It's music camp for grown-ups, essentially. That's how they kind of see it. And it's like this great opportunity to go play awesome music in a cool place, and then spend a lot of their time hiking and just enjoying the natural scenery. And it really is. It's something special. If you're not a huge fan of elongated winters, then I would suggest only coming to Jackson in the summer, because the winters last about 5 or 6 months.
Oh, so we can relate to that.
Yeah, and you get a lot of snow just being in the valley of these massive mountain ranges. You get a ton of snowfall, and if you don't like snow, then you might want to avoid it. come ski a little bit and then go somewhere warm. That's probably the right way to be.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was last year, but we had a couple of like negative 25-degree
Oh,
days, and it was just brutal. Like
that
this winter was not so bad, but last winter, man, it was just, yeah, that was
doesn't get
horrible.
that cold here, but not usually.
Yeah.
And where in Iowa exactly?
So, the University of Iowa is located in Iowa City, where's that compared to Des Moines? Honestly, I don't know Iowa that well, guys.
Oh, so yeah, Des Moines is basically the center of the state, and so Iowa City is 2 hours going east. It's actually closer to the border of Illinois. And I actually just looked it up. So the Grand Teton, at least National Park, I just like looked up where that was, is about 16 hours. It's not so bad.
Yeah.
We can make that drive.
Amazing. Yeah. And I mean, so yeah, currently most of us are like around the Iowa City area, although Katie's in Des Moines, and then Jenna is actually going to be in Missouri starting next year. Yeah.
For
So,
doctorate or oh, you all have your
actually,
doctorates, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
so Kim just got her master's, but the rest of us are either finishing up our doctorates, or already finished. So Katie's like already done completely.
Congrats.
Um,
That's huge.
yeah,
Yeah, thanks.
Seriously. Yeah.
yep. But yeah, Kim is a baby, but that's okay. And yeah, so Jenna's actually going to Missouri for a teaching position. So
Oh, congrats. That's also huge. That's those are tricky to get.
Yes, thank
yes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think even though we've all kind of starting to sort of move around a little bit, we are 100% still committed to the quintet, and we've agreed that even if we are going to be sort of in separate places, that we're going to make sure that we're getting together for rehearsals and things like that. So
And you said you've been playing together for a few years now, right?
yes, so Kim, it was our most recent like addition. So she came in last year, but like the four of us have been together for 2 years now.
Okay.
So yeah, but I mean, we just clicked so well as a group, just the five of us, that we decided that we really had to stick it out and stay together and make it something really real, I guess, because especially in chamber music, like if you find people that you really click with, you can really make music with those people, and that really comes through, I think, in all the performances and things like that. So,
When it's not work at that point, it's just
exactly.
what you want to avoid. I found performing when you're not playing stuff you like, I don't know, it's work. And that's the
Yeah.
last thing any of us want for music is for it to be work.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think we're really lucky in that respect. Cool. So just going back a little bit to the festival. So what have you guys been doing during this time? How are you still making music? Like, what are some things that the musicians have been up to in terms of just staying active?
That's a great question. I'll start by saying that, as this started all breaking out more, the virus, we did cancel our 2020 season, which is, very sad. Of course, it's for this would have been 59th season. So it's a shocker for sure. Fortunately, a lot of our donors and most of our supporters have stood by us and understand, obviously everyone is canceling. Our musicians remain very active as far as just kind of, especially in the first few months, people were like, the creative types and the ones who get into these orchestras are like, they can't stop working. You guys know how it is. You're always just trying to do something new. So they're creating a lot of different content, a lot of different digital content. And we would just essentially kind of encourage them to let us share it and feature them, which it's been nice to kind of reconnect with our musicians a little bit more, because there have been times in the past where the administration and the orchestra have had a little bit of a rift. So just kind of using this time to reconnect and feature our musicians has been really nice. So I've taken over social media as one of the kind of recent things, and I'm basically just collecting videos that I'm friends with all the musicians, and they just collect their videos and kind of repost them and say, hey, check out so-and-so, they're really great, or check out, these people, they're really great. And so that's pretty easy. We're also putting together a smaller group for the summer. About 30 people are going to come in and perform 3 concerts. We're calling it Music from the Mountains. And it's going to be professionally recorded, no audience, which is, very sad, but we're going to capture it, and then we're going to turn the videos around into like concert specials. We're going to post them online, and then we're also going to, we have kind of an agreement with Wyoming PBS and NPR and such, and we're going to use this time to kind of beef up our digital profile, because there's a lot of great recordings of festival music. The GTMF Orchestra, you can find great, awesome recordings, and not a lot of video content, not a lot of that kind of digital content. So for Music from the Mountains, we're going to be doing that. And like I said, small orchestra, we have a whole safety plan for them to be socially distanced and, following every regulation that we can, and just making sure everybody's safe and tested frequently and all that. So
I have to say, I love that so many orchestras are doing these highlights of their members. And I know that sounds so silly, but when you think about it, in the symphony orchestra setting, it's so rare for you to hear an individual member. I mean, you'll hear like the concertmaster play solo, or a principal chair of a string instrument play solo, sing with the winds, but it's so rare for you to hear the second flute or, back row violin. And I love the fact that in these orchestras that they've been doing this content, that you get to hear members that you've never heard play by themselves before. And I think that's actually something that is really wonderful. And I'm really glad that you guys are doing that too, because I've enjoyed watching that content online, especially like the Des Moines Symphony has been doing that. And every time one of their brass members does a performance, I immediately click in, because it's like, this is super cool. Like, I'm able to hear them play some solo work. I'm able to hear them talk and give their program notes, and I can do it from the comfort of my own home. Honestly, I've actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it really is cool. So I was looking at the comments, and Sean said, "Go Wanda Gomar." He's one of our one of our musicians, and also one of our most prominent characters. And as far as persons go, he's a fantastic personality. Actually, just had him on kind of one of our programs. It's very similar to what you guys are doing here. But to what you were saying about the posting musicians and featuring the musicians in an orchestra, I think that's just working in this place where sometimes the musicians feel a little bit like they can't trust the administration. I know that's just how it is in pretty much every orchestra. It's taking that opportunity to connect with your musicians and feature them and show that, like, hey, that they're not just out there on stage. Like, they love doing other things too, and they're really good at other things. And it's been really cool to be a part of that.
Nice. Yeah. So I had a question in my head while you were talking, and then I sort of lost it. But I'm sure I'll think of it at some point. But until then, so what are you guys looking ahead to, and what does the future of the festival look like, or do you guys even know? Obviously right now there's a lot of unknowns, but is there something coming up maybe that people can sort of watch out for or look forward to from the festival?
Of course. So I talked a little bit about Music from the Mountains, which is, you know, you can't replace something like a 7-week live festival with this orchestra, but it's more of something to like just celebrate the fact that, you know, we can still make music, and that, you know, our organization is still here and is still, you know, serving its community and its patrons and its fans. So the Music from the Mountains will be kind of run at the end of August. Those are 3 concert specials you can look forward to. The other thing we're really looking forward to kind of more in the future is 2021. It will be our 60th season. So there's going to be a big celebration, and, you know, that kind of anniversary celebration that we're planning, and, you know, just continually working toward. It takes a lot of time, you know, a couple of years in advance of even some of these planning elements. And, you know, just hoping and knowing that once the music comes back, it'll be bigger and better than ever. In kind of the shorter term, something that I've been involved in and kind of created for the festival is these different digital programs. Like I said, we're kind of quickly trying to catch up with the rest of the world and beef up our digital profile. And one of the programs that I put together in the last month or so is called GTMF Backstage Pass, which features like this, just kind of an informal hangout with musicians. 2 of our festival musicians host it, and then we just invite various groups of musicians on to see each other, and a lot of them are great friends, so it's really cool to see them like connect, and we just have kind of candid discussions about what they've been up to, what their life's been like since COVID, what they really loved about the festival, what they miss about the festival, etc. And so being a part of that's really cool. The way we do it's a little bit different. We record the Zoom meeting, and then I edit it, I do a little post-production on it and post the episode. But there is an interactive element. We have like an audience that joins in and asks questions and such. And that's been going really great so far. It's kind of still in the early stages. But I laughed when I saw the comment about Juan, because Juan and a group of his, like, you know, really good festival friends. They were all on last week's episode that we recorded. And again, just a fantastic personality and a lot of really cool things to say. So that's kind of a more immediate thing to look out for.
Are most of the musicians that play in your festival, do they have full-time orchestra jobs, or are they primarily teachers and professors at other schools? I'm kind of curious who makes up your orchestra.
Most of them are, like I said, you know, principal players at major orchestras in the country and the world. A lot of them also teach, you know, some of them, you know, can currently teach, you know, whether it's adjunct for part-time. Some of them are retired orchestra musicians who only teach, and some of them are just retired completely, and they just like to come to Teton still. And they're still great players. They still practice, and they still keep up their chops and whatnot. But yeah, most of them have full-time orchestra gigs.
Going back a little bit to the GTMF backstage and also some of the other recorded content, how can people access that? Like, which social media platforms should we be using in order to view those things? Is there any sort of, like, do you have to like pay for any of it?
Nope, everything is free. We post the edited videos every Friday. Our 3rd episode is going to be posted this Friday at 1 p.m. Mountain time. So 2 p.m. Central time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry, I'm getting used to these conversions. It's because all our musicians come from, you know, some of them are California, some of them are in New York, you know, so it's like when I send out the emails, I have to make sure I'm very clear with the time zones. So the recorded episode's 1 p.m. Mountain time, and then we actually produce the episode for the following week the same day, a couple hours later at 3 p.m. Mountain time. And like I said, we have kind of a studio audience that participates. And then afterward, we just open it up for everyone. You know, we stop recording and we just let everyone who's participating just get on screen and just kind of hang out with their musicians. And actually, if you guys want to come to the production on Friday, I would love to have you guys there in the Zoom meeting. You can ask questions. It's going to be percussionists too. 5 of our percussionists So it's going to be rowdy. And they're probably some of the 5 most amazing people that you'll ever meet as musicians, because they're just, you'll never forget any of them. So please join us. I'll send you guys the Zoom link. And I think, the more people that we have, the more musicians we have in the audience that can kind of participate, the better I feel the production goes, because how you guys know how it is. It's so much better to have an audience that wants to engage and interact. And I think when you're doing something like this, it helps a lot.
And you said that you're doing that on Facebook Live?
We do it over Zoom, and we record it. And then I post it on, sorry, I didn't answer that question. I post it on Facebook and YouTube. We post it as live to kind of give that kind of feel, like think of like the Tonight Show, or, it's broadcast live, but it's not recorded. It's not recorded live.
Yeah.
So we kind of do the same thing a week later. And so it'll go out on Facebook and YouTube at 1 p.m. on Friday, and every episode.
We'll absolutely be there. I mean, my favorite gig stories always start with, well, I was hanging out with a few percussionists.
Oh man, it's going to be fun. I'm excited. It's going to be. I don't know how else to explain. It's going to be fun. They're great. They're characters for sure. And they're all friends too, which just makes it like they have all been coming to GTMF for 20, 30 years. So they're all like, it'll be a good time. So please come join, see what it's like, and interact. I think the next week is bassoons. So Juan won't be on again because we had him last week because he's really good friends with the brass players that were on. But we have like Andrew Brady, who's an Atlanta principal bassoonist, and so yeah, please.
Sean is freaking out.
Oh, Chris, I should ask Chris if he wants to do it. Yeah, he's one of ours.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool that you guys do that too, because I mean, yeah, similar to what Katie was saying, I feel like we're all in a way sort of a little starved for human connection right now. And like, this is as close as it gets for some of us. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're living with someone or whatever. But even still, like connecting with other musicians right now, just in this casual context, I love it. I think it's so good.
Well, the way I think about it is like, you guys, especially classical musicians, I say you guys because I don't consider myself a classical musician. You guys practice so much, and it's like, you already have this population of people who are used to just kind of, being isolated and, focusing really hard on an incredibly difficult art form. And then you kind of take away their human interaction. So it's like, oh man.
Yeah, so now we go from like being in a practice room alone for hours to continuing to be alone for hours after being in a practice room, whereas like at least before we had that like larger, like it's like, oh, we're going to our ensemble rehearsal or whatever, but now you just don't even have that. So it's just like you're in a room by yourself and then you're in a different room by yourself, and it's like,
yeah. You'll get to perform, which is that's the tragedy. I think the biggest part of it is like all these great musicians out there, and watching it online is just not the same.
Yeah, definitely not. So on a more positive note, what have you enjoyed about this position? Like, what's been your favorite part? I mean, even as someone who's not a classical musician, coming from the jazz world, is there, like, do you have a favorite part of this that maybe you didn't even expect to really enjoy? Just talk about your experience with this position.
I guess it is the orchestra experience. I mean, I've always loved strings and I've always loved classical music. And, I studied classical music in my bachelor's degree, not seriously. I always kind of knew I wanted to be an improviser, more of the jazz side. But just like really the biggest thing that I wasn't expecting was just like how much I would love live orchestra music. And, this orchestra helps because they're so good. But it just is like, you know, you have 80 to 100 heartbeats on stage and everybody's just like totally in sync, and it's really something else. You know, you hear anything, you know, they could play, you know, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and it would still probably, you know, pull the heartstrings a little bit. It's just seeing that big of an ensemble play that well is definitely unique for me, because the biggest ensemble I ever played in was a jazz band, and to be honest, I don't really like jazz band, like playing in one. So I prefer, like you guys, like the smaller groups, like 4 or 5 people. That's kind of where I really enjoy playing. But yeah, just seeing it. And I did get the chance. I was very, very fortunate to play in the festival orchestra last year, because they didn't want to hire out a saxophone player for the week for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of one movement of Debussy. And they're like, well, you have a master's in saxophone. You could probably handle this. And I was like, so I practiced. It really wasn't that hard, but I practiced that thing like for hours and hours, just because I was so nervous.
Oh my God, that's so cool though.
It was terrifying, but awesome.
That's like the dream that every arts admin person that has a music degree has.
I'm sorry. I certainly didn't belong on stage like with them. Like I said, it was an act of convenience. You know, it was a Debussy prelude, and I could handle that. But it was like you're in, you know, T-ball, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, go play, you know, we'll give you an inning at shortstop for the, you know, the Colorado Rockies, and then something like that. That's what it felt like. So.
Oh my God. That's amazing though. That's so cool. Like that was me. I'd be like on my CV, like, I did this 3-minute thing. Yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome. Okay, so wait, Katie, did you type this question here, or was this Jenna? I think it's a great question.
Yeah, I as we've been talking about what the festival is doing and how it's been developing, I guess I'm just curious, have there ever been talks of expanding the festival? You're saying that you're a jazz musician, so you can't participate, but have they ever talked about adding like a jazz component to the festival? Or in also the same way, have they talked about adding a preparatory aspect, so having high school students or college students like an Aspen or a Tanglewood? I'm just curious if any sort of talks have ever happened about expanding the festival in that way. I mean, I know you guys are relatively unique. As far as I know, the only other professional summer ensemble that exists that's not just the summer program of a major orchestra is the Grant Park Music Festival. So I know that you're still like a unique organization, but I'm just curious, have there ever been talks, or are you aware if there has been any talks of expansion?
That's an excellent question. It's certainly something that's on the mind of the administration, and as kind of the person who manages the education and outreach component, it's something that I've been working on as far as just brainstorming and kind of coming up with different ideas. Our issue is just simply like the funding for it is just not quite there yet. And the idea is to do exactly what you're saying. It'd be really great to have like a GTMF music academy of sorts, or some sort of education program that extends beyond kind of what we're already doing, which is, you know, meaningful, but it's mostly serves Jackson, Wyoming. And one of the tasks that I've been given is kind of to try and come up with, I'd imagine, especially with COVID, maybe in the next few years, is how to at least expand our education profile throughout the state of Wyoming, for starters. And I've had a couple of ideas there. As far as presenting other types of music other than classical, we do have a GTMF Presents series that features different musicians. We've had jazz musicians come in and play. We definitely want to focus on the orchestra and the festival musicians, because that's the lifeblood of the organization, and that's what everybody comes to see. And, you know, I think you can get into trouble sometimes when you put on the idea, you put in people's heads the idea that you're transitioning to a presenting organization rather than what you are, what you originally were. And GTMF is an orchestra, so
Gotcha.
I think the Present series is great. It allows us to offer other things, but our 2 festival orchestra concerts on Fridays and Saturdays, 7 weeks a year, is the thing, is us. So I think we've got a good balance in that regard.
So then what is this winter festival?
Oh, that's a great question. I didn't talk about that. The Winter Festival has been another kind of expansion in our off-season offerings. So like I said, we have the community concert series. It's basically a mini festival built of 3 community concerts. So instead of just 1 in the month of February, we put on 3, sometimes 4. And it's just another way to kind of offer more music to the community. All the concerts are free. We usually combine it with a lot of school visits, a lot of outreach visits, outreach performances with our artists. It's been going pretty well. I think this is our 4th or 5th year doing it, and it's a pretty eclectic offering because, this last year we had a clarinet, we had a string quartet, and a vocalist. So, for example,
So they're not necessarily members of the orchestra?
No, they haven't been in the past, although we are looking to include our orchestra musicians more in the community concert series. Again, just kind of keep GTMF like our orchestra focus, but that's not always possible, as you know. But we do want to try to get our musicians involved a little bit as well.
Yeah, I guess if I'm thinking about it, since some of these or all of these musicians probably have orchestra jobs throughout the year and maybe other things that they're doing, maybe the winter festival's like harder for them to like commit to. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is. A lot of times we have one of our pianists from the Utah Symphony. She'll come and be one of our winter festival kind of accompanists. But you're right. It's tricky to book these musicians in the off season. So I think our idea is to try and to get more involvement with them as much as possible. But just so they don't feel like the organization is moving away from them. But it hasn't been. I don't think we've had, outside of Kimmy, who plays piano, I don't think we've had any festival musicians participate. So.
That's really cool. I mean, it's really cool. I think that you guys are also kind of like doing this in order to get like maybe some different people involved too. Like I think that's really cool as well. While trying to keep your main musicians there as well, and also like bringing in some different people like into that community. I think that's really, really important as well.
Yeah. Well, in the Winter Festival, I think the way we kind of we feel that it's a great opportunity for like kind of up and coming ensembles or artists to be featured as well. The last few years we had a group. The string quartet was a group from the Colburn School, and then the year before we had a soloist she was also from the Colburn School. So, the way I see it, I'm not in charge of the programming. I can just make suggestions, but the way that it seems like it's a great opportunity to be like, okay, we've had a professional seasoned orchestra in the summer, but this winter festival is more like, what the future holds. And that's kind of nice and cool. And everyone we've had has been great. So.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay. So, I'm trying to think. Okay. I think we've gone through.
Is it time for silly questions?
Please.
Yes, it's always time for silly questions.
This is my favorite every week.
Go for it.
Okay. I'll ask the first one. Well, I don't know. I was about to assume your favorite type of music because you said you were primarily a jazz musician, but what is your favorite type of music, would you say? Or what have you been listening to recently as we've all been isolated?
That's a wonderful question. I do listen to a lot of jazz, although I got to say that the older I get and the more distant from purchase I get, the more I realize how esoteric jazz is and how frustrating it must be as a listener who doesn't really care about a 2 or 3 minute, 4 minute, 10 minute saxophone solo. I know, because I start to tune out at a certain point. So I do listen to a lot of jazz. A lot of the jazz I listen to is a little bit more kind of popular genre.
Brad Meldau.
Brad Meldau is great. I wouldn't call him popular pop jazz. He's definitely one of the greats though.
Yeah,
and it's always, I mean, I wouldn't even call him a jazz musician. He just play anything. You know, he's one of those guys.
Have you experienced his album with Chris Thiele that came out like a year and a half ago?
I feel like I must have checked it out because that sounds familiar.
It's like the most amazing collaborative album I've ever heard between I mean, like jazz and bluegrass. I mean, the two mix so beautifully. I mean, it's just outstanding. So if you haven't looked that up, you should. I'll have to dig into that again, because those two are they're both monster players on their instruments, and then, you know, just improvising, they can just kind of play whatever they want. So that's really cool. Also, honestly, I've been listening to, so I started gigging again, and I play with this singer, and she sings mostly pop music. So I've been listening to a lot of pop music. Some of her favorite stuff we play is like Billie Eilish and stuff like that. So obviously listen to that. And I'm doing this education thing for this, the Teton Literacy Center here, which is like a small after school program. And so I've been learning a bunch of Disney songs to play for the kids. So I've been listening to like Frozen and, you know, Aladdin, stuff like that, stuff that I'm going to perform for them, which is always a good perspective, you know.
That's so cute. Oh,
it'll be fun. They're great songs too. I'm like playing along with them. I'm like, man, Disney is so good at what they do.
Yeah, there's definitely some bops. There's some bops in the Disney album. It's pretty good stuff.
I like Frozen too, and I don't have any kids. I don't like have any kids, and I think they're great. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of skeptical about Frozen 2 because like Frozen 1 was so good and it was just great. I was like, please don't do this. Please just leave it alone. But I don't know. I haven't seen it.
They're both great.
Okay, good to know.
And the music is, well, all the singers too. They're just like,
yeah,
Broadway superstars. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Can we ask a food question? Is there a recipe or something you've made over quarantine that you would recommend for other people to try?
Actually, I have been cooking a lot. I'm trying to think of what was kind of the most successful. Oh, I know. This is good because it's the first time I ever made it. I actually made lamb chops for the first time, which was nerve-wracking because they're a $25 piece of meat and they're very easy to ruin. But, you know, I just followed the instructions, and it actually went really well. I think we did like, you know, a little rub on the outside with like different spices. I can't remember exactly, but and then homemade mashed potatoes, which is fairly easy, you know. But yeah, that was probably the highlight of my culinary quarantine experience, was trying to not ruin lamb.
Hey, I mean, you had time, right? So it's like,
yep.
If you're gonna make lamb, make it while you have time, I guess.
Oh, that's good. Sorry, I got to turn the chat off because you guys just keep making me laugh.
Sorry.
Welcome to like a regular Wild Prairie Winds situation where we're trying to stay serious, and then somebody will just say something unbelievably silly, and then we get sort of sidetracked.
The pun was that the stakes are high. I want people watching this to know the pun you made.
Yep. That's pretty good. That was pretty good. No, it's the same thing that happens with Backstage Pass. You know, all these musicians, they're very serious and then they get goofy. So, which is good. That's what you want to see. I think that's what people want to see anyways.
I feel like the percussionists don't even know what's going to happen. Like, they're not ready for us. It's going to be way too silly.
Oh, you're not ready for them. Like, it's a two-way street. Like, they're not ready for you guys. And yeah, they're characters. They're really, they're awesome. They're a lot. So it'll be exciting. And I'm excited you guys want to come. That'll be fun. It'll be nice to have just try to build a little bit of the community there. So that's kind of the struggle we've had, is just getting people to, people are watching it on Facebook. That's the problem, but getting people to kind of participate and ask questions and engage.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like a double-edged sword almost, where people like want to connect, but also behind a screen, they're like, maybe I shouldn't, like.
Well, especially with, everyone's on Zoom, like 25/8, it seems like now they're just kind of burnt out. So it's easy to feel like, I don't want to stare at the screen anymore, even if it is my best friend on the other end. Don't.
Yeah. So I want to ask another fun question. So my big thing during the quarantine was to learn how to ride a bike. Like this has been my my calling card was learning how to ride a bike finally. So have you picked up any like hobbies or anything new like during this time?
Tennis. I started playing tennis.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a court near the condo I'm living in. So yeah, it's incredibly difficult and really fun, but so hard.
Yeah, I think I played tennis like maybe a little in high school just because we had a court like where my parents live, just in the neighborhood, but I remember it being extremely like difficult. It's like how do you get across the court so quickly? Like, it's a lot.
A lot of running.
Yeah. Did you like what made you pick tennis? Why tennis?
I don't know. I just got a racket, and some of my coworkers like to play, and it's just something fun to do outside, and we have access to a court. So,
yeah.
What about you guys? Do you guys have any new hobbies or new culinary adventures? You've been asking me a lot of questions, so you know everything about me now. Whoever wants to start. No, you don't want to share. That's okay.
Jenna
I already said mine.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry, I was muted. Are you talking about my bread baking adventures?
Yes.
That was wild. I haven't made bread in a while, but yeah, I went through this period of a couple weeks, and I was having yeast issues, so my bread wouldn't rise. And at the time, Katie and I were in a musicology class together, and I actually ended up on our version of it was called Icon, it was like Blackboard or Canopy or whatever, on our discussion boards, because I would talk about it at the beginning of every class. So I actually posted pictures of this week's bread to our Soviet music class discussion board, and I finally had some success. But yeah, it was the only thing keeping me entertained. So I'm not a baker. I like to cook a lot, but baking and exact measurement and stuff is just not my strong suit. So
It's kind of like to wing it.
yeah, I like to wing it. I like to just be like, oh, that looks like enough. But in stuff like bread, that's not a good way to go.
Can't do it. It has to be exact. Yeah.
Yeah, so I learned it the hard way over several weeks, but now I feel like I'm still a novice, but getting better.
I don't know if people still use this, but Jenna, literally get this bread. You're literally getting that bread. Yeah. Sorry, I had to put that one in there.
What about Sean, Kimberly, or Katie? What have you guys been doing?
Okay, I can say mine. Okay, but I'll say mine before Sean and Katie because they could both very easily one-up me on this. But I've been running, and I've never really, I like running, but I've never been a distance person. Still not, but I can run 4 miles now, which for me is really good. And so that's been good. There's a lot of really pretty trails close to where I live, and so I take my dog and we'll go and run. And yeah, so that's mine.
Good. It's a good hobby to get into, get healthy too, and enjoy the outside. John or Katie?
Sean might not be able to talk. I forget that he has a child that naps during our time together. So I've been going back to the food question. I've actually been watching a lot of Chopped on Hulu, and it's like one of my go-to shows now. I watch probably at least an episode a day, and it seems so silly because I don't cook in any way to that level. I mean, I'm very much a like steam the vegetables in the microwave and heat something up on the stove kind of person. But I love watching these shows and seeing how you can make the food, and then I tell my husband, "Can you please make this food?" That's very basically how it goes.
I love Chopped. It's fun. It's super fun. I think I've watched most of the 29 seasons or whatever there are.
Yeah, what I've definitely noticed is like what judges I like and what judges I don't like. And I think Scott is the best judge. He and Manit are like my two favorites. But the season I'm currently in, Martha Stewart is a judge on every single episode. And I'm just like, what is happening here?
Yes, I watched that. That season's good. She's sometimes harsh.
All right, I guess I can talk now. So I'll give you the non-nerdy bassoon answer. I know, I'm alive. Oh my gosh, I can talk. This never, actually for people who are tuning in, I typically don't ever talk because my daughter's napping whenever we have meetings. So I'm just here in chat like typing out, but I'll give you the non-nerdy bassoon answer, which is I've been spending a lot more time with my daughter, which has been great. I think I'm the only person who could actually say like this whole pandemic has been amazing because I've been able to spend time at home with my family, my wife, my daughter, and it's been great because I'll go down. We have a two-story house, and I'll go down in our basement and practice, and my daughter gets so excited, and she has this cheap little plastic guitar that has like 3 strings left on it, and she'll be like, "Daddy, I want to go practice with you," and she'll like start strumming on it and whatever God's name key that it's tuned into, which is like some sort of like quarter tone, and here I am trying to play like a D flat major scale over it, and it's like, great, guess this is what we're doing today, you know, trying to do Milda concert studies, and here she is like so excited. So it's been great getting to like have that connection with her over all of this, and I've really gotten to see that development of excitement over music in general, whether if it's classical or whatever, you know, it's just been great, you know, so.
It's really great. That's really cool. Yeah, one of our hosts on Backstage Pass and our associate conductor, he has a 3-year-old, and he said it kind of shares your sentiment, the same thing. It's just been a blessing to be home more and spend time with his son.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so I guess we can wrap it up. Mike, thank you so much. It was so great to have you on and to get to know you a little bit more, we never really talked at Purchase, so it was so cool to reconnect with someone that I sort of knew, but now I really know. And and thank you so much for coming on and talking a little about the festival. And for anyone who's watching, you know, please follow them on Facebook and on Instagram, and, you know, look out for those things because, musicians really want to connect, you know, so make sure you're following the Grand Teton Music Festival on all of their social media platforms and things like that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun. Hopefully you'll invite me back.
Absolutely. And for those who are watching, just know that we are in the process of uploading all of our social happy hours onto YouTube, and that way we can have them shared on our Facebook as well as on our website. So hopefully if you had a friend that wanted to tune in and wasn't able to, these will actually all be available, this as well as our conversation last week with Joe Jajak of INHF. and then the week before that with Civita Solis Reed Quintet. So just stay tuned to our social media for those uploads.
Yay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.